Okay, so I am a Xennial Black woman who was born and raised in Southern California as the product of parents with roots in Alabama and Louisiana. Depending on the season, how hard my introvert vibes are vibing, and how much the people around me feel like bullying me, I am sometimes hate crimed by my friends for being a light skin.
I am a victim of a hate crime.
That's not what a hate crime is.
Well, I hated it.
As of this recording, this YouTube channel has just over 1,000 subscribers, which is both chump change in the YouTube economy and nothing to sneeze at in the real world. For many reasons, I don't always have the best gauge of my own abilities and accomplishments in the way my imposter syndrome is set up. My first inclination is to always assume if I can do it, anybody can. And that's just not true. Like, if anybody could have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, everybody would. Again, in comparison to a lot of others, chump change. In comparison to myself, good job, chump. I have known for a long time that numbers and stats and the algorithm do affect me in ways that are not the best for me. I have made a habit of not looking at them and, trying to be as unaware as possible. And so I really don't know what the exact breakdown is, but I know the bulk of my subscribers are from two other large platforms / personas that I created and then eventually killed. The first one being Favorite Child / Favorite Wilds back in 2012, 2013 when I was doing 3-minute scandal recaps. And then more recently, from 2020 until approximately 6 weeks ago, as God Has Not Given, an ex-evangelical Hillsong survivor creating content in the social media deconstruction space with an Instagram platform of just over 13K. Again, chump change compared to the platforms of a lot of white folks who were doing and bringing much less to the space, but nothing to sneeze at on a personal level. Good job, chump. If anybody could have 13,000 followers, everybody would, but not everybody does. And I did, and now I don't. Not because something happened and I got ran off the internet, because while I am annoying to various people for various reasons, and I do generally enjoy being a problem for those who deserve it, I am not generally problematic. I mean, we're all on that spectrum, right? But this point is, I didn't lose my platform, I left it. And here today, almost 2 months out from the actual deactivation and leaving, no regrets. I do not miss it. Glad I did it. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. But do not be fooled. It was not a quick or easy decision. Nobody amasses a large following, and large is not about a certain number. It's about whatever feels large to that person. Nobody amasses a following that to them feels like, damn, without some ego and sense of entitlement getting involved, without having days being absolutely controlled, validated, and or devastated by the algorithm. Nobody with a large platform keeps their mental and emotional health intact effortlessly. If you have a fave with a large platform who pretends that they don't notice, or that they don't know how it happened, or that they don't want more, your fave is a liar. Or an extremely entitled white, which, same. Part of my personal journey to being kinder to myself and giving myself credit where credit is due is not just not downplaying the good things, but also not downplaying the hard ones. Leaving that platform was not a frivolous or easy decision. It very obviously wasn't something anybody could have done, because most people don't and won't. But I did. And yes, I hoped it would benefit me mentally, emotionally, and creatively, and it has. But before it did, I had no way of knowing if it really would. And that matters now, because whether you knew me or not before, it is information I am offering as a bid for trust and proof of concept. When I start talking about platform culture, about the price and cost of attention, of the demands we place on Black women, and of the ways we want, expect, and demand them to sacrifice in ways that we're not willing to, I'm not just talking to be talking about stuff I've heard. I'm talking about what I know from what I have lived and learned, and what I am still living and learning. And obviously my social media accounts are gone, so you can't use that to get at me and fast track, figuring out if I'm really who and how I purport to be, and whether or not, I'm really worth listening to. But you can look through this channel. It's over a decade old at this point. I have a Patreon, I have a Substack, a SoundCloud, I'm on Spotify, Amazon. You can Google me, I've been in documentaries, I have a website. Your girl has been around, and your girl is a real person who is not right about everything, but but doesn't say anything publicly without giving it thought. And so this is not Beyhive clickbait to get the people going. This is for colored girls who have considered blaming Beyonce when nothing is ever fucking enough. So this began as a response to FD Signifier's video entitled Beyonce Is Everything. But none of this is anything I wasn't already thinking about or haven't already spoken about in some form to some extent before. A couple of months before I left my Deconstruction platform, there was an incident. Some accusations of abuse were directed at a friend of mine, and throughout all the drama that unfolded from there, I was on my friend's side.
I'm gonna stick this out.
Not because he was my friend, but because the accusations were a waste of time, and the majority of people who actually looked at all the information provided came to the same conclusion. But behind the scenes, there were people saying my perspective on the matter couldn't really be trusted because that's my friend, which was offensive to me for the implication that I'm too stupid and or I guess emotionally stunted or morally compromised to recognize or call out bad behavior in my friends, which is like antithetical to my whole MO in that space specifically. Like, I landed on so many people's radars for my critiques of my friend Carl Lentz, a white man with infinitely more power, more influence, and frankly, more time in with me than that bozo, who I love, truly, but like, all things considered, what is the payoff there? But people don't think, and in this weird, toxic-ass parasocial climate, one of the demands placed on people with platforms is the performance of impartiality. And if I admit to liking someone or something, then my opinion is automatically sus and maybe not worthless, but definitely worth less. And so to gain admission to conversations and be taken seriously, we have to caveat the depth of our connections. FD is qualified to give his opinion on Beyonce because he likes her, but not so much that he can't be trusted to shit on her when she deserves it, because she definitely deserves it. Except, I don't think she does. And I'm not going to caveat my connection. I love Beyonce. I am a fan. Am I a stan? I don't know. Do I think Beyonce is a genius, and do I consider myself fortunate, lucky, blessed, whatever, to be alive on the same timeline as her? Yes. And do I know all of her kids' full names and birthdays? No. Do I know what city she's in right now? No. And if you have, favorite fun facts about any of her albums, they would probably be news to me. When I say I love Beyonce, I mean it completely in one sense and not at all in another. I love her as I know her from her artistry and what she gives me as an artist. I don't and can't love Beyonce as a person because I don't know her. And I'm making this video not in defense of her, but as a critique of us, because I think 95% of the criticism against her stems from people overstepping and feeling entitled to attack her as a person based on parasocial perceptions of her persona as an artist, and or misogynistic and white supremacist expectations of her as a black woman, and or all of the above. And so this started as a response, but at this point it's a refute to say that yes, Beyonce is everything except for two things. So initially this video was going to be a 5-part response to FD's whole video with accompanying Substack post, but his video is too long and too dense, and I was never gonna finish that. So there might still be a Substack series someday, but this video is its own thing and will primarily be speaking to things from parts 3 and 4 of FD's video. FD's video came out on Wednesday, May 28th, and it came up in my feed pretty much immediately because I follow FD. I'm a fan. I first became aware of him through his appearances on Olay and Friends, and I enjoy his content. I enjoyed, his Beyonce video for the most part at first. FD's video is good, and for more context, you should probably watch it, but not uncritically. Pay attention, because sometimes people will say things that make it clear they're not as well versed as they think, and their lack of either awareness or concern about some of the details should be taken as blatant grains of salt. FD likes Beyonce and clearly did a lot of research for his video, which makes some of the details he missed and or mangled good reminders that his take is far from little things like...
But it wasn't until Lemonade where Beyonce's country aspirations took full center stage with the song Daddy's Lessons.
You mean...
Daddy's Lessons.
Daddy Lessons?
And was shocked when I found out.
Not being very aware of the fact
that Cowboy Carter was her first Grammy for Best Album.
Saying that Jay-Z...
Entitled Today, Tidal being owned by Beyonce's husband Jay-Z.
Still owns Tidal. These are little things that say a lot about the knowledge base of the critic. FD made a few sports analogies in his video. It would be like if I was critiquing basketball, talking about the late great Kobe Bryant, and I was like, I just found out he played for the Lakers his entire career. You'd be like, and rightfully so, which FD himself named.
Especially as a straight black man, we are not necessarily the usual suspects for championing the greatness of a Beyonce.
Yeah, like a straight black man is never going to be the best person to judge or comment on a successful black woman. If you want to learn about Beyonce, why would you not want to hear from people who passionately love and support her? Maybe even uncritically.
People say to me, you spoil that cat. I go, yeah, I do. It's a cat.
Like, let's say it was true that Beyonce's core audience was both completely incapable of and completely unwilling to critique her.
What's the worst that can happen if you spoil a cat?
What god-awful thing is Beyonce gonna do with all that uncritical love and support? If Beyonce came out as MAGA tomorrow, if she performed at a Trump crypto ball, or put on a White Lives Matter t-shirt, or if she posted Free Tory on her Instagram, what do you think her fan base would do? The fact is, we'll never know, because even without doing any of those things, she never has and never will be afforded uncritical love and support, which on the surface seems fine and reasonable, because such is life. If you're gonna have a platform, people are gonna have opinions, and you just kind of have to take it, assuming the people you're getting it from even have the right to give it, which, do they?
Number one, how dare you?
If unsolicited advice is criticism,
But what is
critique?
if not
Unsolicited advice.
persevering?
The actual factual definition of critique is a detailed analysis and assessment of something, especially a literary, philosophical, or political theory. And as Beyonce is not a something or a theory, she is a person, and it is impossible to do a detailed analysis and assessment of a person via parasocial perception. I'd say Beyonce actually faces zero critique on these internets and a whole lot of criticism, because who are you, who am I, who are we to analyze or assess her? What do any of us know about being an unbelievably talented and successful black woman in the United States in 2025? Or who do we have to compare her to say this is how it should be done and here is where she's falling short? Ultimately, the most effective feedback, critique, criticism that you or I or anyone can offer to Beyonce, or anyone we don't like the personality, politics, or products of, is withdrawal or denial of support. To not listen to her music, to not go to her shows, to not buy her products, to not put money in her pocket. You don't like having fun and enjoying things, that is fine and fair and perfectly understandable. What gets weird is when you make trying to ruin the thing you don't like for other people part of your personality and your platform, via the platform of the person you're against. When I was still on social media, one of the rules I had for myself was that I would not argue in someone else's comment section. If I followed person A and they posted something egregious, then I would just unfollow and get out of there. If the person meant enough to me for it to be something that warranted a conversation and we had that kind of relationship, then I would reach out personally. And if not, if the thing mattered that much to me, then I would bring it to my platform and I would talk to my audience about my perspective. Not to say, here's why I hate this person and why you should too, but to say, here's something I heard and saw and here's why it bothered me. And here's how I'm thinking about this. I would bring it to my platform and I would make it about me, because I am the only person I can do anything about. And I think a lot of people who spend time criticizing Beyonce think that's what they're doing, but it's not. Because the same way we expect people to perform impartiality about their friends, we also tend to perform impartiality about ourselves in ways that aren't helpful because they aren't honest.
Do I think Beyonce needs to be canceled because she's an evil propagandist working to brainwash all of us? No. And I never fucking said that. I just said that she's a propagandist, and a damn good one at that, because I've been eating her music up my entire life.
So initially, when I first watched FD's video, and decided to make this response. I liked his video much more than I did by the time I finished this, because the more I thought about it and the more I was writing about it, the more unhinged it all started to seem to me. And not having time in or any kind of previously established parasocial bonds with some of these other creators, I'm sure my assessments are much harsher than they would have been if I knew of and liked them before this. However, girl, what?
I just said that she's a propagandist, and a damn good one at that, because I've been eating her music up my entire life.
Okay, so let's take this bit by bit.
That she's a propagandist.
According to dictionary.com, a propagandist is a person who promotes or publicizes a particular organization or cause, and look at that, it's derogatory. In this particular video, I guess Beyonce is a propagandist for the Democratic Party because she
Allowed Kamala Harris to use that song as her walkout music.
So by that logic, any of us who promoted or publicized any particular organization or cause during the election season was a propagandist, including this yapper. But
When everyone's
Propagandist.
No one will be.
now apparently this creator got a lot of unwarranted heat for being biracial, and I'm going to join that pile on for a second,
And a damn good one at that, because I've been eating her music up my entire life.
because that right there, peak white woman energy. I know this person is a good propagandist because it worked on me. And unlike the rest of you, I'm smart and aware and good. And look, I know we all get online and we just be saying stuff, and the whole yapper economy is built on, half-baked ideas. But I don't think that creator thought that was a half-baked idea, and it absolutely is.
I've been eating her music up my entire life.
So you think she's been a propagandist the whole time?
The whole time you were, the whole time.
So has Beyonce's whole career just been a long con to support the Democratic Party?
The whole time.
And for those of us who were born in black families that already overwhelmingly supported the Democratic Party, who is more responsible for my propagandized state? Is it my parents, my relatives, or is it Beyonce? And before she went mask off with her agenda, what was her music leading you to do or believe that you now see as sinister and disempowering?
Do I think Beyonce needs to be canceled because she's an evil propagandist working to brainwash all of us? No. And I never fucking said that.
So what are you saying? And why? Who is this for? It's not for Beyonce. She doesn't care what you think. It's not for me. I don't care either. So this is for your followers who, from watching this, you assume that you are better and smarter than, because you think they need you to tell them what's wrong with Beyonce because you think you're right. But you can't prove that you're right. So you'll just work to prove Beyonce isn't perfect and let that be the big truth, the big revelation that sets you apart from the rest of the sheep who never would have voted for Kamala Harris, who never would have been capitalist, who never would have been cosmically propagandized to choose to be born in the nation that is supporting the nation that is committing genocide in Palestine had it not been for Beyonce. Right? And now, however many minutes into this thing, we finally get to the first thing Beyonce is not. Have you ever wondered how Beyonce felt when bell hooks called her a terrorist? It's 2014, Beyonce is 32, 33, and an elder black feminist scholar is not just saying you don't know what you're talking about, but calling you an actual agent of terror. And then, by 2025, when FD references the pop feminism era of the 2010s and slaps Beyonce on the wrist for her part in it, we all just nod along like that's reasonable. As if Beyonce, an early 30-something, who a few minutes later, FD would go on to describe as...
Beyonce's always come off kind of country and aloof. Like many child stars, I think Beyonce's just kind of awkward.
As if that person was supposed to have, or I guess in the most villainous timeline did have, a superior grasp of feminism that she was duty-bound to pass on to us and just didn't. Just maliciously chose not to. She knew better and just refused to do better. It's not possible that she was just an artist singing about what was on her mind at the time, concepts she was learning and exploring. No, she's a terrorist, which is exactly why that album failed. Because it was such obvious pop feminism propaganda that we all recognized it a mile away and avoided it like the plague, except, oh wait, that's not what happened. That album didn't fail. We loved it. We ate it up. Not because it was propaganda, but because it was good ass music. We were all learning and growing and changing and being wrong about things, all of us, including Beyonce. But we never give her that grace because ultimately we do not think of her or see her as a person. There's more than one way to dehumanize someone. The way we're most familiar with and talk about the most is the kind of dehumanization that sees and treats other people like they are less than human. But it is also dehumanizing to deify people and to treat them like they are more than human. With Beyonce, a lot of the criticism ends up coming from a place of not giving her the benefit of the doubt or the benefit of being human and being allowed to not know everything, not just all the time, but for all of time. Beyonce is a zennial, elder millennial black woman, not an eternal being. She's never been here before. She is figuring out race and feminism and leftist versus liberalism and all these things that we have been figuring out in real time at the same time as us. And she has to be allowed to make mistakes, to be wrong, to be conflicted, to think things are simpler than they are and then learn later that there was more nuance. And she also has to be allowed to just think differently than you, than bell hooks, than your favorite yapper, because she, just like you, is a singular human being having a singular human experience. An experience so singular, in fact, that it is truly a fool's errand, truly bananas, to think you or I would have done better. We act like all these things have been obvious and we have been more enlightened the whole time. And Beyonce has just been working overtime to dumb us down. Somebody put together a side-by-side of Beyonce and Blue Ivy doing the Deja Vu choreography, and I get choked up almost every time I look at it because look at that terrorist in those heels, that short dress, that racial ambiguity. That was the uniform the company, the music industry, required at that time. And she wore it, and she worked it, and now she has her own company. She has carved out a big enough space where her children, her unambiguously black child, can be unambiguously black and dressed cute and have a good time doing what she loves. Which at the end of the day, you know what? Maybe Bell Hooks was right. I guess it is terrorist behavior to challenge and change systems in ways that benefit your descendants. Aha! But that's just it, Janice. It's only benefiting her descendants. And the songwriters. And the producers. And the dancers. And the musicians and the crews she hires. And the other artists that she works with and promotes. And the fans. And idiots like you who feel inspired and encouraged and heartened by her music. Okay, yeah. But also the executives, Janice, the blood-sucking corporate executives.
Black capitalist community that she's most loyal to, the ones that she never disappoints, never price gouges, and never crosses. Not the single ladies, information girls who run the world. It's just the reality. Yes, Beyonce has been an advocate for black issues in the past in ways that don't put a risk to her,
Define risk. In fact, I am begging y'all to define anything when it comes to Beyonce and your criticisms, not critiques. You don't have the range. You're criticizing and you're being unbelievably unfair and like unhinged levels of unserious, because when you say something like this
is not what Hannah and other black leftists saw in that performance. What they saw was not necessarily an image of black resistance, but just an image of black Americana mythos. They saw Beyonce doing pretty much the same thing she did with the Black Panthers back in 2015. And that's because the performance doesn't have any overt signifiers that relate to a spirit of defiance and resistance.
That's great. So apparently a black woman putting on a black ass performance on a national NFL stage is an easy everyday thing. And it always has been. Y'all are out of your mind.
You can't point to anything overt that speaks to a sense of defiance to anti-Blackness inherent in America, and absolutely nothing in defiance of American anymore.
That is a wild statement, but you know what? I'm not even gonna argue with you because I can't. You're right. I don't know what Beyonce should have done, but we all know she definitely did not do some unspecified thing that probably could have changed something, if not everything, and that she has given no good excuse for not doing it. And again, I don't know what that thing was, but I'm going to humble myself and assume that y'all do. and invite you to hit the comment section with your idea for what overt thing Beyonce should have done to defy anti-Blackness and the American empire, and what definitely would have happened if she had. Don't come over here with incomplete hypotheticals, let's be fucking for real. Because it's simple, right? So, spell it out. If Beyonce would have just burned an American flag and said F Donald Trump, Israel would have immediately ceased to exist. Whatever your belief is, put it in the comments so we can see in black and white how unrealistic we are in general and how unfair we are to Beyonce specifically. Because when you take a moment to think about what you're asking for, you're going to quickly remember how complicated things are, and maybe you'll realize how small-minded and selfish you're being. Because ultimately, there's nothing she could have done that was going to end anti-Blackness or the American empire. So at most, she could have made you smile, I guess? And then what? FD, in all your research, you didn't run across the part where people were up in arms because of the gesture she made at the end of her performance? That was a problem. But you think she could have gone harder, blacker?
In ways that don't put a risk to her.
And she just chose not to? That's not a thing. At all. Y'all be acting like you live in an equitable socialist community that you keep trying to lure Beyonce into for her own good, but she just won't move in because she likes living over there in that capitalist hellscape where she loves doing life with
Black capitalist community that she's most loyal to.
Meanwhile, you're here, appearing before us on Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk's internet, from behind the unethically built technology and products you've bought from Jeff Bezos. You're on here not explaining to me why you're not in jail for not paying taxes, because maybe you can't do much, but I think that's the least anyone could do if they're really about that life and down to do whatever to stop being part of funding genocides. And if you disagree, wow, well, isn't that convenient? Sounds like somebody is only down for the cause.
When those things are easy and not threatening to real power, but nothing beyond a certain point.
Y'all, look at this woman who has done things you never imagined, who has changed the world, changed your world in ways you did not see coming, who is living a life you cannot possibly understand, and saying to her and to all of us, it's easy and I could do it better. When you clearly couldn't, because you're clearly not. If you're so much smarter than Beyonce, if it's so easy to play the game, to get into the rooms and to rise to the top, why haven't you done it? If it was meant for you to have the influence of Beyonce, you would have it, but you don't. And so any time that you are spending speaking against her is time you are wasting, not just being a propagandist for misogynoir, but a terrorist. You are a terrorist. Because think about Beyonce's core audience.
Many of Beyonce's core fans, namely Black women and queer men,
on the spectrum of politically and personally aware of the evils of America to propagandized nationalist supremacists, where is most of her audience situated?
Namely Black women and queer men.
And how stupid do you think we are? Like, you don't think Black women and queer men can recognize nuance and hold complexity? You think we need you to keep us from loving this thing too much? And what if I do love her music too much? So much that I choose to ignore her politics because she's not a fucking politician or a feminist scholar or a doctor of Black studies, and I'm not looking to her for a political agenda I can get behind. When it comes to America, Black women are not just the least of the left's problems. We are the greatest hope because we hold the line in a way that no one else does. And how do y'all thank us? By pouncing and punching down the second we have a thought that you don't agree with. On the list of things that you don't like about Beyonce or her behavior, which of those problems is she, or Black women in general, the root of? Like what thing, if Beyonce would just stop being Beyonce and listen to you about, what issue would go away forever? Capitalism? Imperialism? Anti-Blackness? Israel? America? What? You know what would happen if Beyonce decided to finally start listening to you and doing things your way? The thing that would cease to be? would be Beyonce. And then what? Then will you be happier? Healthier? Will I? Will the world? A lot of online knuckleheads think Beyonce is chronically online. I don't think she is. I think she has people who keep an eye out. But Beyonce, if you are chronically online and seeing this stuff in real time and still staying sane, I might have to rethink this whole section, because you may in fact be God. And in that case, Lord, hear my prayer. Please, 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 whatever you do, please continue to not listen to these bozos. You are Beyonce, and you know what you're doing, so carry on, please. So, maybe Beyonce is God, but she is definitely not the second thing.
An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times.
One of the pillars of FD's criticism of Beyonce is that Nina Simone quote, and towards the very end of his video, he does turn the camera back on us a little bit to say that maybe it's a little bit our fault that Beyonce is such a bad reflection, and there's an analogy of a gun, and maybe she's not loading the gun the way we need her to because we haven't handed her enough bullets or something. And like I said some thousands of words ago, I liked FD's video more when I started this project than I did by the end, because the more I sat and thought about it and wrote about it, the more unreasonable his demands, which are echoes of a lot of our demands and expectations, proved to be. Nina Simone said she believed it is the duty of an artist to reflect the times, which, assuming you agree with that, which some people may not, and that is their right, as Nina Simone was not God. And that thought of hers was not infallible scripture or some irrefutable cosmic law. It is debatable. So assuming agreement with that, and I do agree.
An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times. The times. The times.
You, I, the yappers, the critics are not the times. And Beyonce is everything except you. Beyonce is reflecting the times as she is seeing and experiencing them. Calling her a propagandist, blaming her for black folks feeling some pride for being American, chastising her for Israelis liking her music, is clown behavior. That's what you're reflecting. Because again, Beyonce is a person, and as a person, she is allowed and has to be allowed to have her own beliefs, to have her own interests, including self-interest, and to see the world the way that she sees it. Because that is literally the only way that she can see the world. Expecting Beyonce to not only share all your beliefs, not just in principle, but in practice, to have and to hold and to share them the way you think she should, which is the way you would, is unhinged hater behavior. And speaking of unhinged hater behavior,
Hallelujah!
Yes.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
I hate the work of Tyler Perry. I'm not going to say why. I'm not even going to say that ever again publicly. I only said it just then to level set and to build my thesis for this next part. Last year, when Divorce in the Black came out, one of my friends paid me and another friend $8 to watch the first 8 minutes of the movie. And because I am a filthy liberal capitalist, I did. I set aside my principle of not supporting Tyler Perry for $8. I watched the first 8 minutes, and they were so ridiculous, I kept watching. And I went on to watch that movie a few times and to recommend it to other people. Not because it's good, but because it was so bad. To me, it was actually hilariously entertaining. And you know what? Clicks are clicks, views are views. I made $8, but Tyler made however much Tyler makes because I kept watching and recommending. I put money in that man's pocket. And I'm not even mad about it, because you know what? Whether I like it or not, Tyler Perry is doing his job. Part of the reason I am a Tyler Perry hater is because I am jealous. As a writer and a storyteller who is not as successful as I would like to be, it frustrates me that he is so successful. Well, It used to frustrate me. It doesn't anymore because I realized that that jealousy was coming from a scarcity mindset. Capitalism tells us, especially in the Black community, that we only have so much time, so much attention, so much money. And as long as Tyler Perry is taking it, then there's no room for me or anyone else who could be doing a better job. And so to make room for myself, I thought for a long time, right, that I had to chip away at him and to point out to others what a bad job he was doing. The only problem with that is art is subjective and people like what they like. And me telling someone else what they like is not good, that is supremacist behavior. It's me thinking I'm smarter, that I know more, and that my opinion is the better, more correct opinion because my taste is superior. And if I believe that, while I may think and it may seem like I'm critiquing Tyler Perry, who I was actually criticizing was his audience because I didn't actually respect them. I wanted their clicks, I wanted their views, I wanted their attention because capitalism, but I also wanted them to think more like me, to be more like me, to listen to me and not him. And that's how I think Beyonce haters think about Beyonce. I think it's jealousy and supremacy. I think her critics feel entitled to her audience. They think they should be the voices that we're listening to because they think their viewpoints are better. But instead of trusting time, trusting their own efforts, staying in their own lane, and building up their own crowd, they're tearing down Beyonce to try to get her crowd's attention. Because for all the tisk-tisking they directed her for being a financial capitalist, they're social capitalists. When it comes to criticism, maturity was going from me saying Tyler Perry is not good to I don't like Tyler Perry to Tyler Perry is not for me. And leaving it at that, leaving him alone and letting his supporters enjoy his work because he is an entertainer. And if I am not being entertained, that's not actually his problem because he doesn't work for me. If you are not being entertained by Beyonce, then Beyonce is not for you. And you need to leave her alone because who do you think you are? I love it. I'm having a great time. So why should your enjoyment, your preferences, and your approval matter more than mine? And if you are being entertained by Beyonce, then she's clearly doing her job. So why are you demanding more? Beyonce's platform is Beyonce's platform. It's not yours. She is not you. If you want her influence, you want her fans to hear, to have, and to hold your perspective, then put your head down, do your work. Stop tearing her down and build up the people and the platform that you do have. Stop expecting her to do everything you think you would do if you were in her position and do everything you're supposed to be doing from your position.
A perfect example of this is what happened a few years ago on Renaissance with Kelis, a woman who hadn't had nearly the career or success or power of Beyonce, who didn't marry a future billionaire. And when she publicly criticized Beyonce for the inclusion of a piece of her music that she couldn't be paid for, there was no real response, no statement, no girl power, no rerun the world type stuff from Beyonce.
If Beyonce was really about that life, she would have publicly dropkicked Pharrell to get Kelis her royalties. That's what I would have done. No, it's not. Because you didn't. Unless, did I miss the boycott? The rally for Kelis?
And she legally paid Pharrell to use Kelis's voice on a song that Pharrell owns the right to, which I assume was maybe refunded when she took Kelis's voice off the song.
You assume? Oh, so you didn't do that research. So you don't know that's not how anything works. However much Beyonce paid. There's no takebacks. But since you didn't do that research, you're thinking about this contractual business paperwork situation like a personal matter and making all kinds of wrong assumptions and bad assessments of what Beyonce woulda, coulda, shoulda done.
At least say something about Kelis, like, sorry, advocate for her to get her publishing back behind the scenes. She could have called Kelis like Kelis wanted her to.
So now Kelis gets to set the standard for how Beyonce should move? When does Beyonce ever publicly respond to anything? That's not her MO at all. But what if? Is it at all possible? Could Beyonce have done all this to bring Kelis' situation to the public so we could do something about it? Did y'all ever consider that? No. Because Beyonce is a mastermind propagandist, but only for the capitalist overlords who she could easily spit in the faces of, but doesn't, because she loves America and wants you to love it too, uncritically, which is exactly why Cowboy Carter is actually very critical of America, but you might not know that if you don't actually listen to the album, so she should have said something that made that abundantly clear during her Netflix special. Meanwhile, I, FD, don't even really like to refer to myself as a feminist on my own channel for fear of alienating some viewers, but if I were on Netflix, clowns. Walking around in clown shoes, participating in clown behavior. And for what? Some of you need to be honest about how shitting on Beyonce has made your life better in terms of clicks and attention and visibility. But you also need to beware, because the audience you have gained is an audience that likes, or in the very least has no problem shitting on successful black women. So like, congrats? Who is your criticism helping? For the black women who have built and or are bolstering your own platforms on taking shots at or tearing down Beyonce, why? You have gifts and talents. You have a way with your words and the ability to affect how people think about things. What if you use that power for good? Instead of chipping away at her, champion the artists you think are doing it right.
For all her talent and maybe good intentions, Beyonce is no Nina Simone.
Okay, 2 quick questions. Who said she was supposed to be? Who is? There's a story about how the first time Nina Simone met MLK, she told him, "I am not nonviolent." If that were today, you don't think the yappers would be critiquing and questioning the realness of Nina Simone's militancy? I mean, she claims to be about that life, but she doesn't seem to be trying to change Martin's mind, so I don't know. What if y'all trusted that Beyonce's core audience is actually smart enough to think their own thoughts, come to their own political conclusions, and hold their own convictions? What if you didn't assume nefarious intent whenever Beyonce does something differently from what you think she should do? What if you just let people like and love and enjoy what they get from her, uncritically? Why do we have to be conflicted about everything? And why does a black woman have to bear the brunt of the conflict? Beyonce is not a politician. She's an artist. It is not her job to tell me or you or anyone else what to believe. And it is not our place to tell her what she should believe. She is not you, and she is not yours. She doesn't belong to you. It is her job as an entertainer to entertain. And it is our luck, our gift, our blessing as consumers that her art inspires and encourages us the way that it does. If you don't like her or you don't like what she produces, don't support her. That is the ultimate feedback, critique, reprimand you have at your disposal, to live and let live and leave her alone. Because I don't think that loading the gun is Beyonce's responsibility. I think it's ours. I think we, the people, have the weapons. And the artists that we love, what they produce and what they give to us is ammunition. Art bolsters and encourages us to face the world as it is and to imagine and envision it as it could be. And it is such nasty work when we get frustrated with the world not measuring up to what we think it should and could be. And instead of thanking Beyonce for the ways that she inspires us and the distances she has helped us cover as we stay in our lanes, take our positions, fight the fights we feel called to in the ways we feel called to, we see everything that's happening. We load the gun and then we turn it on her.
Mercy on me, baby, have mercy on me. Mercy, mercy, mercy. I see you, I see you, please have mercy on me.
All right, if you made it all the way through this, thank you. I assume it means you either love Beyonce and are with me on this, or you're a hater spoiling for a fight. Either way, I appreciate the view. For more from me and my perspective, you can find me here on YouTube in the Delula section. You can find me on my website, janicelagata.com. If you got thoughts, let's talk. And, to close out, happy Juneteenth, y'all. As we commemorate this day that exists because news of freedom took over 900 days to reach Texas, I think we would all do well to remember that's still the case for a lot of people on a lot of topics, right? We are not all on the same timeline. We are not all working with the same information or from the same location, physically, spiritually, or emotionally. And it doesn't help individuals and it doesn't help the culture when we shame people for not knowing what we know, thinking how we think, or living how we live exactly when we know it, when we think it, and when we're living it. So if you're here and you're listening and you're thinking, whether you agree with me or not, you are right on time. And since anyone can shit on Beyonce, I hope you're inspired to leave that low-hanging fruit alone and move forward in ways that only you can, to reach people who don't even know yet how long they've been waiting and how much they need to hear from you.